Well, staying with our top story now, let's take a closer look at the Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. A 45-year-old Nijjar left India for Canada in 1997 and became a prominent Sikh leader in the province of British Columbia. He publicly campaigned for Khalistan, the creation of an independent Sikh homeland in the Punjab region of India. India described Nijjar as a terrorist who had a militant separatist group, accusations he denied. Well, just this year, Nijjar was working on an unofficial worldwide vote by Sikhs on whether they support separating from India. Canadian media reported he had received threats in the past because of his activism. Well, Bharatiya Singh is the spokesman and legal counsel of the World Sikh Organization of Canada. He believes India was involved in Nijjar's killings.
It's been incredibly validating. We as Canadian Sikhs have for years said that India is interfering here in Canadian Sikh affairs. We had identified strong fears that Mr. Nijjar was the target of an Indian assassination plot. And to have the Prime Minister get up and say that today, that's confirming those concerns, and it's, like I said, very validating. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was the president of one of the largest Sikh gurdwaras in Canada. He was also a very strong advocate, a vocal advocate for Khalistan, which is a sovereign Sikh state. And we here in Canada enjoy freedom of expression. But India had repeatedly insisted that Canada silence Mr. Nijjar as well as those Sikhs who are campaigning for Khalistan. And India simply doesn't understand that that's not legally possible. But to go to the extent of having a targeted killing on foreign soil, this falls into the bizarre. I mean, this is a terrorist act by India, and I'm surprised that they would go this far. To be honest, what I am concerned about is India using this moment in time to create tensions, to once again use its tentacles here in Canada to create moments of violence, create conflict, and that's not beyond what they've already been doing. So Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, we all live here peacefully. But what India has very actively tried to do is create conflict and create the myth of Sikh extremism in Canada.
Well, Shazia Ilmi is the national spokeswoman for India's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Joins us now from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you believe the Canadian Prime Minister is wrong when he says there are credible reasons to suspect India was involved in the assassination of Singh Nijjar?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I must express my anguish at the language used by the Canadian Prime Minister and the Foreign Ministry. Such strong words and a lie that is so blatant, and also a lie which is completely unsubstantiated. India, in fact, has been at the receiving end of Sikh extremism. Just last month, we saw a float in one of the festivals of a former Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, who was not also part of my party, but a former Prime Minister's assassination. And the float exhibited the glorification of our former Prime Minister's assassination, to which the Indian government took umbrage. Not just that, not only was the Indian flag desecrated, but there were threats made against Indian diplomats time and time again. About the latest set of allegations that have been made, and very serious wild allegations, let me read out and reiterate what our ministry and what Indian standards of the Ministry of External Affairs is saying, that these allegations are not only being rejected by us, but they are completely absurd. Targeted killing in a foreign land, whereas we have been suffering the interference of Canada and its diplomats in our matters, because the Khalistan supporters actually are seeking secession of India, breaking down of Indian territory. So we stand for our sovereignty and our integrity.
Okay,
but the fact of the matter is that such a strong...
Yeah, if you let me jump in. So yes. Canadian officials are complaining that India is not cooperating with the investigation. Why not cooperate with the Canadians if the Indian government has nothing to hide?
Well, that is the Canadian charge. That is a charge by the Canadian government. The fact of the matter is, and our Foreign Minister, Jaishankar ji, has spelled it out many times earlier, that this is, in fact, the worst kind of vote bank politics that Justin Trudeau's government is indulging in. There was the killing of this gentleman, and it was very well known that it was a gang war. It has nothing to do with Indian diplomats, Indian agencies, and it has nothing to do with Indian government whatsoever. Yet these serious charges are being made, and at that level of the Prime Minister. I think it's extremely unfortunate. Indian government is completely, cooperating in the investigation. And I really think the Canadian government should do more in controlling extremism on their soil and anti-India activities where Indian diplomats are threatened. There are placards displayed where bounties on their names are given, and when the Indian flag is desecrated, even from the High Commission itself. I think these are very serious matters.
Sure, you've made that point. Let me put to you, if I may, let me put to you, when you speak to
complete commitment to rule of law.
Right. Okay. When you speak to Sikh activists, though, this is what they point out. We've not only had the killing of Singh Nijjar in June, we've had the killing of several prominent Sikh figures and other minority figures, such as Paramjit Singh Panjwal, shot dead in Pakistan, May the 6th. He was the chief of the Khalistan commando force. Rapudaman Singh Malik, who was accused by India of involvement in a 1985 bombing, shot dead in Surrey in July 2022. The killing of Sayyid Khalid Raza, a Badr commander, shot dead in Karachi, February 27th, 2023. And the list goes on. Bashir Ahmed
Don't you find
Peer.
it hilarious?
What do you say to those?
Yes.
That's their narrative. They say
Yeah, I want to.
there's a number of people who are considered either terrorists or enemies or threats to India who have been killed in the last year and a half.
I heard you the first time. Yes. So do you attribute all these killings or deaths to Indian and Indian agencies? I mean, isn't it hilarious? Whether it's a killing in Karachi or somewhere else in Pakistan, you want to blame the Indian government for the same?
No, this is not my position. Let's be absolutely clear. This is the accusation posted by activists.
25. Can I just finish what I was saying? March 22, 25-year-old Harminder Kaur from India was attacked. 21-year-old Indian student Karthik Vasudev attacked, shot dead in Toronto. A statue of Mahatma Gandhi at a Vishnu temple desecrated. In August 22, an Indian radio host Jyoti Singh Man brutally attacked. Why? Because he was a supporter of the Indian government and did not agree with the Khalistan, pro-Khalistan believers and activists. So, and then there is a float depicting Indira Gandhi's assassination.
Sorry, with all due respect, Shazia, but you're not answering the question. I'll let you finish the thought, but you're really not answering the question. Is your narrative that all of these killings I mentioned, I've got a list of more of them, your response to those who say they suspect Indian involvement is that these are all coincidences, that in the last year and a half, people identified as threats to India are being killed?
Well, one charge is as good as the other. Just because their charges are that these killings, which have happened all over in Canada and in Pakistan, will now be attributed to, Indian agencies. I think it's just ludicrous. Ours is a government which has never had a track record of anything of this kind. One, and most importantly, we are committed to the rule of law. So surely we can't be compared to the state of affairs in Pakistan, because ours is a vibrant, robust democracy, which is doing rather well. So I don't think that there is any need to believe the extremist element and bow to them and to acquiesce to their allegations and agree with them and put the blame on India, where India has nothing to do with it.
All right. So why, since you mentioned democracy and a track record, how would you respond to a number of civil liberty groups who say, such as the Freedom House report of 2022, that the current Indian government has developed a history of persecuting minorities? It says, quote, a rise in persecution affecting the Muslim population, harassment of journalists, non-governmental organizations and other governmental critics. The Sweden-based VDEM Institute names India as one of the worst autocratizers in the last 10 years in its democracy report of 2023. Are those also wrong?
Well, obviously, and what is the credibility of Freedom House? This agency and this report would have you believe that India is worse off than Hong Kong and Afghanistan. Now, would anybody in their right mind believe it? These have been refuted many times over. I live in India.
And also the VDEM Institute and the Economist Intelligence
Muslims have been the biggest
Unit.
beneficiaries of Indian welfare schemes. No, I think this is just a very hackneyed sort of a narrative which has been used far too often and with very little credibility whatsoever. So I think we could do better than that instead of dragging India into something that India is not guilty of, to put it and heap all these insults on India, knowing very well that none of them are true.
So just briefly then, why do you think the Canadians are going after India then?
One NGO believes that this is happening in India. Does it actually make it true?
So
I think it's a lot of bunkum that I've heard on your show this time.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say that, and the Indian government strongly
No, you have your right to your opinion, but why do you think the Canadian government...
blatant lie. We've never
Shazia, if I could jump in. Okay, you made your point.
The past ever.
Why do you think then the Canadians are also saying there's credible evidence? If there is no credible evidence to suspect India, are they also lacking credibility and a bunch of uncredible NGOs as well?
Well, they can produce the evidence. I think it's out in the public domain to see as to how the Canadian government will provide the evidence linking the killing of this gentleman with that of Indian government or any of the Indian agencies or whatsoever. It is totally up to them to prove this. But I think it is totally uncorroborated. It's a blatant lie, and it is rather absurd to say the very least.
Okay.
And it's very shocking that this language has been used, and the Canadian Prime Minister should fall victim to this kind of vote bank politics and compulsion of vote bank politics in his own country to this extent. It is rather shameful, I'd say.
All right. Thank you so much, Shazia Ilmi, for answering those questions and sharing your perspective with us.